Shabbat Shalom. It's y'all brother mikha'el ben Israel coming at you with this ain't even the Hebrews in the Hood edition. This more of a feature presentation from my brother James Cassell, aka Yahqob. The brother brought a nice edifying piece where he actually what you about to witness, you about to view is him actually going into the quantum mechanics and the quantum physics and things of that nature as it relates to the existence of a creator. And so I think this would be nice for those who have a so-called open mind, who may not want to look at it from a religious standpoint. But either way it goes, this brother did a good job. He made some excellent points. That's because the Most High is with him. I'm coming at you live from Riverdale, right outside Chicago, to all my brews. Today is the first day of Ethanim, the Hebrew month. You see it right there. So it is the 7th month, the first day, according to the Torah, Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 24, I believe it is, 24, 25. This is the trumpets, the blowing of the trumpets memorial that we have, which is ours. You know, you Negro, you got your own holidays, your own everything. They sanctioned by the Most High. You don't got to keep all these, Greco-Roman holidays. And no, this is not a Jewish calendar. This is the calendars that our elders been putting together for almost half a century now. You know, so as you can see, it's based off Jerusalem time, not Esau time. And so, like I said, y'all contact me if y'all want calendars, brews. They got the Greco-Roman month up there, then they got our month right there and what day it is. So today it is, of course, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Let me see. What is it? On the Greco-Roman, it is the 21st. But in the Hebrew, it's Ethanim, the first day. So that's the seventh month, and the first day is Ethanim 1. The new moon was last night, and we go out Jerusalem time. So I say happy blowing of the trumpets to all of Israel and the sojourner. So Shabbat Shalom, all that. So again, what you about to view is my brother James Cassell, Yahqob. Hey, y'all give us Shabbat Shalom, Joe. Y'all on. Shabbat Shalom, Joe. Shabbat Shalom, all that. Yeah, for sure. So I'm up here at the camp before class start, a few hours ahead of time. So I go and slide this in here. And this is to all you black atheists. I ain't gonna say no names, but like and Amara Squad, them type of cats, y'all gonna have to answer to James. So we gonna make sure that this gets out there and to somebody address it. We unleashing from every angle. So that's what's up. Hey, Shalom, brother. Good to see you. All right, so y'all enjoy. Check out this presentation. The title is below. You can contact, subscribe, Hebrews in the Hood, and mikha'el Israel page, and also on Facebook, Walls of Jericho, Biblical and Historical Studies. All right.
Shalom, shalom, Israel. What's good? First, giving honor and praise to the Creator, then the He who intercedes on my behalf, Yeshua HaMashiach. Oh man, it's been a long day and it's late right now. It's about 9:30, man. I've been up since 3:30 in the morning. So man, I'm about to go ahead and get this presentation out because I told my I was gonna get it to him, and I've been taking a long time doing it. I ain't gonna lie, man. It's my second time taking too long to get back on somebody when they ask me to do something for them. But I got you here, Michael Elvis. I got you right here, man. I know you've been wanting something for your channel. I'll make sure I get this to you. This is actually from a debate that I had a few months back with a brother from the Kemetic community, or the African community. We had a debate about, string theory, because we both believe that string theory is the best explanation science has for how the universe came into being. And so we had a discussion about that and whether atheist view or a theistic view would stand, or whether pretty much the view he came off was that he was in the philosophical thought of realism, while anybody who comes from a theistic standpoint has to be on the side of idealism. And but pretty much we had the debate and stuff, and I mean, landslide victory. Dude wasn't even on the right subject matter for string theory. He was arguing the standard model. The standard model cannot be used to explain string theory. String theory is used to explain the standard model. It's what's beyond the standard model. That's what string theory is. But so what I want to do right now is just put out all the information pretty much that I had on my side of the aisle that supports my evidence for theistic belief as it pertains to string theory. So let me share my screen and get to it. And I'm going to try to have this in under an hour. Like my big bro say, y'all can't stand too much of this truth. So we got to get it to y'all quick, else y'all going to run off after a while. We had some dudes, matter of fact, somebody hit me in my inbox earlier today telling me about, dudes talking about my presentation, and y'all need to go check it out on Maccabees TV, Hebrews in Nigeria. Go check out that presentation. I already had 1.6 thousand views. Let's get it up to about 5. So y'all go ahead, subscribe to Maccabees TV. We Hebrews supporting Hebrew platforms. That's why I'm coming over here to my brother Michael Edwards, and why I went over to Maccabees TV. So yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's get to it. All right. All right, here we go. Is God necessary for string theory? By me, Yahqob. All right. Well, any standard cosmological argument coming from a theistic perspective has to come to the Kalam cosmological argument. And it pretty much says that anything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. And I mean, even string theory is explaining what it is the cause of the universe. It's generally accepted that the Big Bang is the beginning of the universe. So pretty much the disagreements me and the atheist brother had is a foundational disagreement. Is in the premises, and is the fact that we have different philosophical views when it comes to the evidence or the lack thereof of evidence. On my side or on the theistic side, you have idealists, which it means that I believe that reality is a mental construct and does not exist independent of observation. So again, reality is dependent on observation, is my view. And then the theist was a realist, meaning that they believe physical reality exists independent of observation. So they believe that observation is not necessary for reality to exist. And it ain't hard to see that these are polar opposite views. So the second area of disagreement stems from the first. The theist believes nothing outside of the universe was necessary for the formation of the universe. Why I argue the opposite? Not only am I arguing against the premise, I also argue that the atheist worldview of realism is incompatible with quantum mechanics, asserting the presence of a conscious agent in the formation of our universe through observation. Because remember, idealism says observation is necessary for the universe to exist, while realism says that observation is not necessary for the universe to exist. Neither will the atheist be able to produce a working model supported by falsifiable data through the realist or naturalist perspective. And the naturalist perspective is the more extreme version of realism. And pretty much why quantum mechanics is incompatible with realism. Pretty much the double slit experiment. Now, this right here is very, very important when people go look this up. And y'all need to go look it up, the double slit experiment, because it proves pretty much that observation is necessary to make a wave function collapse in order to create matter. because pretty much to give a gist of what's going on in string theory, you have this ocean of virtual particles. And then these ocean of virtual particle collapses, and then they cause it matter, or the Big Bang that caused our universe to come into existence. So, but the double slit experiment shows us that observation is necessary for a wave function to collapse. And then you have Schrodinger's equation that confirmed by Klaus Johnson that debunks general relativity. You know, and that's general relativity pretty much is because Einstein, which, I mean, come on, Einstein is the guy who gave us E equals MC squared. He pretty much worked out a formula and saying that if quantum mechanics was real, that this thing that he called a spooky action at a distance would be real. And, you know, at that time period, there was no way to test this spooky action at a distance to see if it was real or not. So they wrote it off and they started going with the materialist worldview or the naturalist worldview. But then as quantum mechanics started coming along and technology started picking up, they went to the realist worldview. And now it's come to a point where it's about to be impossible to even be a realist. You're going to have to be an idealist or a theist. But yeah, that spooky action at a distance is now called quantum entanglement. Yeah, so it was actually true. So on the quantum level, spooky things happen. And going on, Bell's inequality debunks local realism. If Bell's inequality was violated, then local hidden variables would be debunked, and matter is observation dependent. So in this right here, I give the source right there on the article that shows that, you know, Bell's inequality was violated, which means that matter is observation dependent. And then you have Leggett's inequality that debunks non-local realism. Local realism pretty much means that something within the universe itself. Non-local realism would be like, for instance, saying that we are an offshoot of another universe. That would be something that's non-local. Okay, so Leggett's inequality debunks non-local realism. If Leggett's inequality is violated, then non-local hidden variables are debunked and matter is observation dependent. An experimental test of non-local realism, again with the source there. And then the same doctor that they're quoting in the article, Dr. Anton Zeilinger, stated in an article published by physicsworld.com, April 20th, 2007, titled "Quantum Physics Says Goodbye to Reality." Most working scientists hold fast to the concept of realism, a point of view to which an eternal reality exists independent of observation. But quantum physics has shattered some of our cornerstone beliefs. So even they're saying that, look, from everything we're getting, from the tests we're doing by this falsifiable data, I mean, matter depends on you observing it. And then, of course, there's always the Quantum Randy Challenge. You know, you can find this on Cornell University's website, that if anyone, because pretty much James Randi is a professional skeptic, and he likes to weed out what he calls pseudoscience, science that is not backed up by the data. And right now he's saying that the atheist worldview of local or non-local realism is not backed up by data. And he's putting $1 million on the line. So anybody who's sitting here wanting to say that matter exists independent of observation, go ahead and prove it and get $1 million. That's all I got to say about that. And then you have the holographic principle. Now, this principle here is responsible for actually saving quantum mechanics from science community intellectual titan Stephen Hawking, which pretty much was getting to the point where he was saying that quantum mechanics was impossible because he was saying that information actually was eliminated within a black hole. When we find out, no, information is not eliminated in a black hole. It actually is splattered on the event horizon of the black hole. You know, all the information is splattered on the event horizon of the black hole, which gives us the holographic principle, which is saying that pretty much when a wave function collapses, if a small black hole is formed, all the information is scattered on that the surface area of the black hole or the event horizon, and then it emerges as a holographic image or a 3D image into our universe or into our dimension. In which Stephen Hawking lost an intense debate between himself and Dr. Leonard Susskind. And Dr. Leonard Susskind writes about it in The Black Hole War, My Battle with Steve Hawking to Make the World Safe for Quantum Mechanics in 2008. All right. So pretty much here's my question for all the atheists out there. Seeing as according to the falsifiable data, local nor non-local realism are compatible with quantum mechanics, meaning no hidden variables exist and reality is observation dependent, what will the atheist do? Will he abandon quantum mechanics and the evidence of science? Will he B, abandon the philosophical view in accordance? Or C, will he step up and prove me wrong, prove the science is wrong, and win $1 million by winning the Quantum Randy Challenge? And also, if they're going to win $1 million, I would like to ask them to tell us the catalyst to cause a wave function collapse in order to form matter. Because again, the falsifiable data is showing observation is necessary. And that's what the double slit experiment showed us. And the more advanced version of it shows us something far more deep. And then 3 here, it says, lastly, the third question is, what does the atheist think of the Copenhagen interpretation or the consciousness causes collapse, which doesn't mean only consciousness itself. It also means an apparatus can do it, but it would have to be made to measure like a compass, like a consciousness. And, you know, like Occam says, you know, you cut out the unnecessary part. So if it has to measure like a consciousness and be made by, it has to be made by a consciousness to measure by a consciousness, we might as well kick it out the way and just deal with the conscious mind. But again, lastly, what does the atheist think of the Copenhagen interpretation or consciousness causes collapse when dealing with the initial singularity or the Big Bang? All right. And pretty much that's Stephen Hawking and Leonard Susskind, which we'll talk about Leonard Susskind a little bit later. All right. Or right now. Well, pretty much, man, here goes his credentials. As you can see, is a bunch of them, but I'm going to try to skip through them and get the ones that really matter right here. He's a professor of physics at Stanford University since 1979, still to present day. He's won the Prager Award in 1975, the J.J. Sakurai Prize in Theoretical Particle Physics in 1997. Let's see. Let's look at some of his contributions to the field. The independent discovery of string theory, model of particle physics. Let's see some more things that he did. The theory of symmetry breaking, sometimes known as Technicolor theory. The second yet independent theory of cosmological baryogenesis. String theory of black hole entropy, which is very important, black hole entropy. The principle of black hole complementarity. The causal patch hypothesis. The holographic principle as applies to string theory. M theory. Now, if you study string theory, you got to know what M theory is, including development of the BFSS matrix model. Like this dude here is also the guy who purports that reality is a simulation, that our universe is a simulation. All right. This right here is disturbing implications of the cosmological constant. All right. Neither string theory nor quantum gravity provide a consistent starting point for a discussion of the initial singularity or why the entropy of the initial state is so low, which is extremely small by comparison with today's visible entropy. So it's pretty much saying the entropy at the beginning of the universe was less than the entropy that we see today. And he says some unknown agent initially started the inflammation high up in its potential, and the rest is history. Goes on to say, on such long time scales, the second law of thermodynamics does not prevent rare events which effectively reverse the direction of entropy change. Obviously, the reoccurrence allows the entire process of cosmology to begin again, although with a slightly different initial condition. What is more, the sequence of reoccurrences will stretch into the infinite past and future. The question then is whether the origin of the universe can be a naturally occurring fluctuation, or must it be due to an external agent which starts the system out in a specific low entropy state? And later on, we're going to go into what that state was according to the biblical narrative. And this right here is from Disturbing Implication of the Cosmological Constant by L. Dyson, M. Kelblin, and Leonard Susskind, Stanford University, in collaborations with MIT, 14th November 2002, pages 1 and 3. And there's the source if anybody wants to put it in and look it up for themselves. And then we're going to continue. For reasons that have been explained in many places, if we want to apply the ordinary principles of unitary quantum mechanics to a system of horizons, we need to restrict attention to the region on the observer side of the horizon. The observer side, okay. For example, the triangle of figure 2 is the region appropriate to an observer of the left-hand boundary of the space, excuse me. We call such a region the observer's causal patch, and this is on page 7. Another possibility is an unknown agent intervened in the evolution for reasons of its own, restarted the universe in a state of low entropy, categorizing inflation. However, even this does not rid the theory of the pesky reoccurrences. Like, this just keeps happening. Like, if it is an unknown agent, this unknown agent just keeps involving himself in things. It's crazy. Only the first occurrence would evolve in a way that would be consistent with the usual expectations. But again, we're not getting the usual expectations. We're getting expectations that show that this unknown agent, if we're going with this possibility, is intervening. All right. And then we go on to Eric Verlinde, who is another very important person if we're going to talk about string theory. And he's a Dutch theoretical physicist and string theorist. The Verlinde formula is named after him. He's an indefinite appointment at a theory division of CERN in Geneva, Switzerland. Again, major contributions: the Verlinde formula, the Cardy-Verlinde formula, entropic gravity in 2009. Verlinde showed that the laws of gravity may be derived by assuming a form of the holographic principle and the laws of thermodynamics. This may imply that gravity is not a true fundamental force of nature like electromagnetism, but instead is a consequence of the universe striving to maximize entropy. Which this is pretty much saying, like, because a lot of the arguments on the realist side is that gravity, that if we have all the laws of physics and gravity, that somehow the universe would come out of this sea of quantum fluctuations. But from what we're saying here, that's not possible, right? All the evidence is showing that gravity wasn't even around, all right? Gravity is just a cause of the third dimension or the three-dimensional objects. But we'll get into that later. All right. Pretty much, and there's Eric Verlinde right there. And it says, according to Einstein's theory of general relativity, space-time has no intrinsic properties other than its curved geometry. It's merely a stage, albeit a dynamical one, on which matter moves under the influence of forces. There are well-motivated reasons coming from theory as well as observations to challenge this conventional point of view. From the observational side, again, the observational side, the fact that 95% of our universe consists of mysterious forms of energy or matter gives sufficient motivation to reconsider this basic starting point. And from a theoretical perspective, insights from black hole physics and string theory indicate that our macroscopic notions of space-time and gravity are emergent from an underlying microscopic description in which they have no a priori meaning, which is pretty much saying that it's just a side effect of what's going on lower dimensional level, well, on the third dimensional level. And later on, we're going to get into how our world pretty much better aligns with simulation inside of some type of computer, or at least the best way as we can describe it. But this right here is from Emergent Gravity and the Dark Universe by Eric Verlinde, Delta Institute for Theoretical Physics, Institute of Physics, University of Amsterdam, November the 8th, 2016. And that right there is the PDF itself if anybody wants to go look it up and read it. Okay. On the Origins of Gravity and the Laws of Newton by Eric Verlinde. And it says, many physicists believe that gravity and space-time geometry are emergent. Also, string theory and its related developments have given several indications in this direction. Particularly important clues come from the CFT, or more generally, the open-closed string correspondence. This correspondence leads to a duality between theories that contain gravity and those that don't. It therefore provides evidence for the fact that gravity can emerge from a microscopic description that does not know about its existence. Again, it has no a priori meaning. It's just a side effect. The universality of gravity suggests that its emergence should be understood from general principles that are independent of the specific details of the underlying microscopic theory. In this paper, we will argue that the central notion needed to derive gravity is information. Because again, what the holographic principle proves is that information is not destroyed in a black hole. And that not only is energy the only thing that cannot be created or destroyed, but information is also something that cannot be created nor destroyed. Well, it cannot be destroyed from what we're seeing. I mean, the quantum fluctuations would have had to been created. They couldn't have came out of nowhere. But information is not showing to be destroyed. More precisely, it is the amount of information associated with matter and its location in whatever form the microscopic theory likes to have it. Measure its terms of entropy, which entropy is just information. Well, is pretty much what it's saying. Changes in this entropy or information when matter is displaced leads to an entropic force, which, as we will show, takes the form of gravity. So gravity is an entropic force that emerges from these underlying principles. Its origin, therefore, lies in the tendency of microscopic theory to maximize its entropy. And again, there's the PDF link right there if anybody wants to look at it, because we don't have to hide information like other dudes do. We don't have to omit information around here. We just gonna give you the facts. You make your own decision. All right. This right here is dealing with Brian Wentworth, and this is pretty much the guy who pretty much compares our reality to whether it's an objective reality, which would be in line with the realist side, or would it be more along a simulation or a holographic world, which is more in line with what string theory is saying and what the theists would believe. And I'll break down again how that's plausible later. All right. Pretty much this guy, he got his BSc in math and a BA in psychology and an MA in neuropsychology on brain split research. He joined the New Zealand Army as a physiologist, a psychologist. What am I talking about? And ran officer selection boards up to the senior Army psychologist. Then became a defense computing analyst, ending up in operational simulations or war games. Retiring industrial psychologist, cross-trained in computing, then designed and wrote software. So it's pretty much going into this guy's deep background in psychology and in computing and computer systems and simulations. All right. The world as a virtual reality. This paper explores the idea that the universe is a virtual reality created by information processing and relates the strange idea to the findings of modern physics about the physical world. The virtual reality concept is familiar to us from online worlds, but our world as a virtual reality is usually a subject of science fiction rather than science. Yet logically, the world could be an information simulation running on a multidimensional space-time screen. Indeed, if the essence of the universe is information, matter, charge, energy, and movement could be aspects of information. And the many conservation laws could be a single law of information conservation. If the universe were a virtual reality, its creation, again, if the universe was a virtual reality, its creation at the Big Bang would no longer be paradoxical, as every virtual system must be booted up. It is suggested that whether the world is an objective reality or a virtual reality is a matter for science to resolve. Modern information science can suggest how core physical properties like space, time, light, matter, and movement could derive from information processing. Such an approach could reconcile relativity and quantum theories, with the former being how information processing creates space-time, which pretty much is time and space, information process, because the fourth dimension is actually time-space. It emerges from the third. And the latter, how it creates energy and matter. And this is from The Physical World as a Virtual Reality, Brian Whitworth, Massey University, Albi, in Auckland, New Zealand. And again, all these sources are people that are very, very relevant in this field of study. I am not using any back alley minimalist scholars here. I'm using the best up-to-date scholarship that I found from the people who are heads in their fields. And going on. This paper explores the idea that, I already read that part. I did that twice. All right, and here we go. The HNIC of theoretical physics himself, PhD, Dr. James Gates Jr. And here's this man's credentials, man. There's no words that can talk about the amount of study that this man put in and the barriers that this man broke through. All right. Gates, pretty much, he graduated from MIT, earning his PhD in physics in 1977. His thesis, Symmetry Principles in Selected Problems of Field Theory, was the first at MIT to deal with supersymmetry. In 1977, Gates went to the University of Harvard as a junior fellow in the Harvard Society of Fellows. Come on, man. In 1998, Gates was named the John S. Toll Professor of Physics at the University of Maryland, becoming the first African American to hold an endowed chair in physics at the major research universities in the United States. Gates was nominated by the Department of Energy as one of the USA's Science and Engineering Festival's 95th Nifty 50 speakers to present his work and career to middle school and high school students in October of 2010. He is on the board of trustees of the Society of Science and the Public. Gates was the Martin Luther King Jr. visiting scholar at MIT 2010 to 2011, and was a residential scholar at MIT's Simmons Hall. He is pursuing ongoing research into string theory, supersymmetry, and supergravity at the MIT Center of Theoretical Physics. On February the 1st, 2013, Gates was the recipient of the National Medal of Science. And on November 5th, 2016, Gates spoke at the 2016 Quadrennial Physics Congress, the largest ever gathering of physics undergraduates. Man, this dude's, his credentials go on and on and on, bro. Again, we talked about the Toll professor. He served on President Obama's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. And plus these images right here we see over to the side, they're actually called Adinkras, and that name actually comes from West Africa, and it deals with a lot of the symbols that they have in West Africa. And it says his research focuses on Adinkra symbols as a representation of supersymmetric algebras, West African spiritual system followers. And that's important for y'all, because y'all should be jumping at this right here, because it shows its relation to this ancient cosmology that's actually relating closer to string theory in ancient African traditions in West Africa. Come on, man. Again, this right here is just about Adinkras for interest's sake right here. Physicists have long sought to describe the universe in terms of equations. Now, James Gates explains how research on a class of geometric symbols known as Adinkras could lead to fresh insights into the theory of supersymmetry and perhaps even the very nature of reality. So come on, man. That's what I keep telling people. When we get to idealism, we go to the ancient African roots of it all, man. And people got to stop trying to avoid that. Trying to be atheists. Ain't no atheist African civilizations. What my big bro mikha'el ben Israel the brother Ankh, supposed to be the God killer a while back. Just give me one ancient atheist African civilization and I'm with you. Nah. Even their cosmology, even their symbology relates to this string theory, which again is shown to be able to deal with an observer. And again, when you're looking at what the falsifiable data says, right now we have evidence that an observer is necessary for matter to exist, while all evidence against that has actually been debunked. But let's keep going. Complex ideas, complex shapes, Adinkras, geometric objects that encode mathematical relationships between supersymmetric particles, are named after symbols that represent wise sayings in West African culture. This Adinkra is called Nea Onim no Sa'aohu, which translates as he who does not know can become knowledgeable through learning, which is something that a lot of these brothers need to do. Like we've had brothers have to be called out about their proper methodology, man. Brothers need to go back and learn how to use proper methodology when making an argument. You know what I'm saying? Just saying, petty arguments like give me a body. That ain't proper methodology, man. You can't say a man doesn't exist when he has an entire lineage and we have artifacts that proves the lineage exists. Like, come on, man. It doesn't even make sense. Dudes just argue to argue. But all right, and there, that's where I got the image from. I got it from a blog site. It was an image of an Adinkra. But the actual source for the information is the Adinkras for mathematicians by Yang X Dang. That's actually how you say there. Dang. All right. And also, this is another argument because people try to say, well, the universe could have been caused by coming out of another universe, and then it could have kept going back to an infinite cycle, right? And then pretty much this right here is what shows that the physicists went, did some calculations, and came out and said conscious observers are the only thing that can clarify many worlds. Pretty much in this brief note, I argue putting conscious observers at the center of the considerations clarifies and strengthens the many worlds interpretations. The basic assumption, which means that extremely plausible based on our current understanding of the brain and of decoherence, is that quantum states corresponding to distinct conscious experiences have to be orthogonal. I show that once this is accepted, probabilistic measurement outcomes correspond to basis elements and follow Born's rule emerge naturally from global unitary dynamics. Again, what he's pretty much saying is that conscious observer is going to be needed to make that wave function collapse. But if that conscious observer or multiple observers exists, then hey, everything makes sense now. Come on, man. We can't argue against the arguments that make everything make sense. And then we have falsifiable data to support it, which would definitely be shown and have been shown in the videos here. All right, wave particle duality, the observer, and retrocausality. All right. And it says we approach wave particle duality, the role of the observer, and implications of retrocausality by starting with the results of a well-verified quantum experiment. We analyze how some current theoretical approaches interpret these results. We then provide an alternative theoretical framework that is consistent with the observations and in many ways simpler than usual attempts to account for retrocausality involving a non-local conscious observer. In the Copenhagen interpretation proposed initially by Bohr, Heisenberg, and further developed by them, including Pauli, Born, and others, the role of observation plays a fundamental role in the so-called collapse of a wave function, which again is the initial singularity or the Big Bang. Here we summarize the traditional way of understanding the act of observation and the role of the observer. This is often referred to as the orthodox view as HP. A human being decides to observe the properties of a quantum system at a particular point in time and space, setting up appropriate experiment, as for example, to determine the direction of the spin of a particle. The consciousness that plans, executes, and subsequently makes the observation is within this human being. In the same space-time coordinates, we will term this the local conscious observer. Now, I don't know what y'all thinking, but this is talking about a spirit of a man, your consciousness. And that it's big. Come on. I mean, people just can't get around this. I mean, even Einstein said that quantum mechanics would have made spookiness real. You know, what they always try to make fun of us, say, you know, as Bible folks, we spooky. As theists, we spooky. Well, sorry, quantum mechanics say spookiness is real. Get over it. You know what I'm saying? But going on. We will term this the local conscious observer, the consciousness inside of a person. The local conscious observer sets up the apparatus needed to conduct the observation. Again, like I said earlier, the local conscious observer would have to make the apparatus to observe, or probing action to ask a question of nature. So it's saying that when you look at something, you're asking a question of nature. The local conscious observer sets up the apparatus needed to conduct the observation or probing action to ask a question of nature. Nature responds with its answer, which is T1. The answer is recorded by the measurement apparatus at T1. The local conscious observer then observes the recording of the answer at the time T2, which is greater than T1. The act of observation causes the particular form of nature's answer i.e. particle or interfering pattern, or pretty much the wave function collapsing, bringing up a 3D image. And this right here is from Ashok Nahasimhan, I can't even say that right, a co-founder and president of the Nalanda Institute of Consciousness Study and Research, San Francisco, California, Board of Trustees of California Institute of Integral Studies, CIIS, San Francisco, California, and Mina C. Kafatos, Fletcher Jones Endowed Professor of Computational Physics, Chapman University, Orange, California, affiliate researcher, National Observatory of Athens, Greece. And that right there is the PDF, so you guys can go look it up, because again, I ain't trying to hide nothing from you. Transparency, that's what the scriptures teach us. And this is it continued. H.P. Sapp has advanced our understanding of quantum phenomena and the role of the mind. In the orthodox interpretation of quantum mechanics, which extends the Copenhagen interpretation as achieved by J. von Neumann, the role of the observation played by an observer and the response by nature are outlined. Although we agree with the basic approach of the role of the mind in the Copenhagen interpretation, or its orthodox refinement by von Neumann, we have shown here that the issues are more complicated when quantum eraser non-locality enters the picture, as collapse occurs without an act of observation by a local observer, rather through the apparent retrocausal quantum eraser experiments, which imply the availability of information outside of time-space, which pretty much is saying information has to be fundamental because it exists outside of time and space. It's eternal. And which are, and again, I know y'all can't handle too much of them scriptures, but it say, God's word will never fall void because it's eternal. Once he put it out, it can't come back. That's what scriptures say. But anyway, we can show that the issues are more complicated when we... Okay, let's get back to where we were. I'm sorry. All right. When quantum eraser non-locality enters the picture, as collapse occurs without an act of observation by a local observer, rather through the apparatus retrocausal quantum eraser experiments, which imply the availability of information outside of space-time, and which are consistent with theoretical and experimental established quantum non-locality. The approach we take here is agnostic as to the role of nature and possible modifications to standard orthodox quantum mechanics. The roles of O, the observer, and little o, the apparatus, presented here are novel interpretations consistent with the advanced eraser experiments of Kim et al. We actually believe that von Neumann himself implied the existence of such an observer, as he concluded that the so-called Heisenberg cut was probable nowhere to be found, which pretty much the Heisenberg cut would have only been able to be done by an observer. And that's what they're saying. And again, this is represented by the simple double slit experiment and the quantum eraser experiments, which pretty much shows again that information exists outside of time and space, because even when they measure the wave function collapse after it goes through the double slit, it actually sends the information back in time to make it only go through one slit, when normally, if you don't observe it, it goes through both slits, neither slit, It's crazy. But yeah. And then here goes 3 more questions that I had for him. If quantum mechanics finds codes of information within string theory, what does the atheist give for the source of all this information that all these principles emerge from? Now, we can't sit here and say we're looking at information that's as deep as computer code. Come on, as deep as computer code, and it's just random information. No one's going to sit there and look at a web browser program and say that nature made that. Come on now. This is information. So it has to have a source. 2, what does he think of the implications of our reality being more closely related to a virtual world, which identifies with idealism while rejecting realism, which idealism again is that reality is observation dependent, while realism says reality is not observation dependent. And again, all the data. 3, when dealing with the multiple universe hypothesis, does he utilize Occam's razor, or better known as, shout out to General Hashal, the Hebrew razor sharp method, which can be interpreted as, among competing hypotheses, the one with the fewest assumptions should be selected, because we have no evidence whatsoever of another universe for us to spawn out of. Come on, that's science fiction. Talk about belief. We just spawned out of a whole nother universe we can't measure in no way, shape, or form. Come on, man. Talk about faith. All right. Does he not consider the fact that including other worlds outside of our ability to measure them is a huge assumption and violates this principle utilized in such instances of competing hypotheses? Now, again, this is the issue we have. Brothers never utilized the Hebrew razor sharp method. I mean, maybe if they took the time to learn, discipline, which is what, becoming a Hebrew Israelite teaches you. It teaches you proper methodology. Then they would use things like the Hebrew razor sharp method and just cancel these things out. But I hear atheists argue these arguments all the time without even thinking about how much true faith is required. It's just as much faith as, well, actually, it's less faith. I have more evidence to support God with the argument I'm making right now than the atheist has to support there not being a God. So he's the one sitting over here with all the faith. All right. Gathering the conclusion from the data. All right. Quantum mechanics is incompatible with realism. Based on falsifiable data, it has removed any possibility of hidden variables, whether local or non-local, to this universe. All right. Researchers have even come out and said, in order for a multiverse theory consisting of multiple universes to exist, then there would have to be a need of multiple observers. You can't even get, from the data we got, you can't get around an observer. Somebody had to observe this reality. All right, keep going. It is not space-time nor gravity and components of the sort that are fundamental, but it is the information itself, removing gravity as a fundamental force. Think about it. If gravity is the universal force of attraction acting between all matter, how then can gravity exist before the matter exists? It doesn't make any sense. Even how we describe gravity, it can't exist before the matter exists, so it can't be acting on these virtual particles. It don't make any sense. To suppose gravity is part of the first dimension of waves is contradictory to its very definition, because those quantum fluctuations are the first dimension. They are wave functions. There is code embedded in string theory, and therefore the fabric of the universe. Logically, I must ask the source of something such as a code, seeing as it could only come from intelligence. Yet I am sure my combatant or the atheist would not give an answer. Therefore, he is dealing with belief, not basing it on falsifiable data. Like they say they do. They deal with the science. But it's really not. They deal with belief. They've made a religion out of this. And anything that comes out that goes against it, they want to omit it and not talk about it. That's why none of them talk about string theory. Another one, the delayed quantum eraser, which is not detailed but more advanced version of the double slit experiment, shows that information has the ability to move through time. When a wave is observed, it creates a back history from the probabilities of where the particle would have traveled if seen the entire time. Now, the delayed quantum eraser experiment blew my mind because it made complete sense out of God knowing the end from the beginning. Because God observed a finished, perfect product. But when the back filing of the information has to play out, we have the reality we have now with the ups and downs, with the purification through fire, with the making us into refined gold, shiny gold, something that's pure. And that is actually what God is seeing. He's seeing the end from the beginning. Every time we go through something, we do something wrong and it grieves him. He is actually still looking at the end, knowing what the end is going to be. And this actually shows how that's possible. I mean, it's crazy. It's deep. Keep going. The Copenhagen interpretation, or the consciousness causes collapse. This is supported by the double slit experiment and its more advanced versions like the quantum eraser experiments. The very father of string theory includes a conscious agent within his analysis of possibilities to explain the increase in entropy at the beginning of the universe, or the increase of information. This same father of string theory, Leonard Susskind, also utilizes his analysis based solely on the fine laws of quantum mechanics, a conscious agent. All right, death to realism, because that's pretty much what it is. It's over for it. Look, y'all just gonna have to come over here on the theist side. Now the argument needs to be, you know what I'm saying, which God is the real God, or which God gave us the best way to govern ourselves. Or even if you don't want to deal with God, which spiritual system is more in coherence with nature. But anyway, this right here is from the Quantum Enigma on page 81 by Bruce Rosenblum. And he was the chairman of physics in the department of UC Berkeley, and Fred Kuttner, lecturer at UC Santa Cruz. And they say consciousness causes a wave function to collapse to form matter, meaning the belief that reality exists independent of observation, or realism, is dead with quantum mechanics. Another point they made: information is fundamental. It exists as wave functions in the first dimension of this universe. They are manifested as the probabilities of an object being found by someone until it is found or formulated past history, until it is found and formulating past history based on where it is found. The quantum eraser experiment pretty much shows this. The waviness of a region, or the waves of strings, which is what we're talking about with these wave functions, is the probability of an object being in a particular place. We must be careful. The waviness is not the probability of the object being in a particular place. There is a difference. The object is not there before you find it there, because again, it deals with superposition in quantum mechanics. Or I don't think I referenced this earlier. Superposition pretty much deals with, okay, say there's an apple sitting on my my counter, my kitchen counter. If I'm not looking at this apple according to superposition, this apple is on the counter, on the ground, falling on the ground, flying in the air, and sitting at the table all at the same time. It is not until I look at it and actually see where it is that it actually exists. Other than that, it's just wave functions. Which does bring up an argument about, then how could the universe continue to exist without God continuing to interfere and stuff? But that's a whole different argument. But there's answers for that argument too, because pretty much I'll go ahead and put out this little gem for y'all real quick. See, it's a very important thing that God did when he created man and made man in his image and in his likeness, which means he had the consciousness and the observation patterns like the Most High. By him doing so, he then makes it so that he can step away from interaction with his creation at any time, and his creation will still function because there's human beings here to observe reality and still see it existing and showing, so it still exists in 3D matter. When we look out into the universe, until we know where to look, until we know how to look at something, it doesn't even exist to us. So it's until we know what questions to ask of nature that things even become real to us. Atoms wasn't real to us until we know how to ask nature for it. I mean, like I said, string theory is deep, it's philosophical, and it only leads you back to theism at the end of the day. All right. Now, after we've seen that compilation, we're going to further the premise. All right. Ontological properties of the observer based on the falsifiable data. So I'm furthering my premise based on the falsifiable data that I have. And the first one is, of course, the universe has a cause, which was laid by my first one. And we all agree, or at least most scientists agree, with the Big Bang Theory. 2, if the universe has a cause, then an uncaused conscious agent, same as Susskind proposes, exists, who is beginningless, changeless, immaterial, spaceless, timeless, and all-powerful. This conscious agent is what we define or we understand, especially from a biblical point of view, as God. And of course, logic follows, therefore God exists. All right. All right. Now let's go over some misconceptions of string theory. One of the big misconceptions of string theory is that it entails that there's a bunch of multiple universes, and one thing's happening in this universe, another thing's happening in that universe, another. No, it's not. Not at all. All right. So when someone mentions different dimensions, we tend to think of things like parallel universes, alternate realities that exist parallel to our own. But where things work or happen differently. However, the reality of dimensions and how they play a role in the order of our universe is really quite different from this popular characterization. I had this guy Khufu. Come on, Khufu, you my dude. But Khufu, you can't sit here and try to pop up on me pop culture when it comes to string theory instead of actually doing the research, bro. Don't do that no more, man. The first dimension, as I already noted, is that which gives length, aka a y-axis. A good description of a one-dimensional object is a straight line, which exists only in terms of length and has no other discernible qualities. Another one-dimensional thing is voice, speech, radio frequency. They all exist in the first dimension. They're wave functions. And then in the second dimension, in the second dimension, you have the y and the x-axis. And with something like a square, I mean, everyone knows it's like a picture, something drawn on a piece of paper is 2-dimensional. And then the third dimension, again, everyone knows what a 3-dimensional cube is or what an object is. I mean, you pick up your cell phone, it's 3-dimensional, your body is 3-dimensional. So we know what these things are. But this is from physics.org. Is universe and dimensions. And there's the link right there so you guys will go and be able to go and read it. All right. So here's my biblical model of string theory. All right. And pretty much both the Bible and string theory gives a cause of the universe to be a conscious agent who, upon looking at the string waves or the wave functions, cause them to collapse and form matter, creating what we call the initial singularity or the Big Bang based on the falsifiable data. Due to the fact the third dimension does not exist until the initial singularity or observation mechanism causing the sudden expansion of the universe. Seeing as time, matter, space did not exist at this point, it is logically to infer that this conscious agent would be timeless, spaceless, and immaterial. Based on the fact that the conscious agent is timeless, this infers that it is changeless and beginningless. Seeing as time is an emergent property of information, and both are dependent upon time. So this makes it clear. You can't even argue against what it is or what this conscious agent would have to be. All right. The only immaterial mechanism we know of able to process information and make observations through is a mind, of course. Though an apparatus may be utilized due to Occam razor, or the Hebrew razor sharp method, it is unnecessary, seeing it would have to come from a mind, from the processes of a mind anyway, because the mind would have had to create the apparatus. And now we know this conscious agent is a timeless, beginningless, and immaterial mind, because again, the only thing we know that can act in the way of a computer simulation is a mind. Think about it. We dream I can't say we all dream, but people dream every night. These dreams seem real. This is 3D reality going on in your own mind. Again, it's one thing the Bible says, that nature itself attests to the reality that there is a God, man. Your own mind does. Your own consciousness does. It shows you how this reality exists. We are but a figment of imagination in the mind of God. Do y'all understand that? String theory is showing us this. We are a thought process in the mind of God. Okay, so first we must account for the information. And it's from within the biblical paradigm, because we have to account for where this extra information is coming from, right? So information creation is right here, Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, again, we know that it would have had to be wave function collapsing to make this matter that we call the heavens and the earth. All right, Psalms 33:9. For he spoke and it was done. He commanded and it stood fast. John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. And the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is essentially information creation, making of the virtual particles which act as strings of waves in the first dimension. Because pretty much, like I said, voice is nothing but a wave function. That's all it is. And in this instance, it would have been more of thought. Observations and increased entropy in the biblical model, right? Susskind supposes that entropy or information was too low in the initial conditions of the universe, requiring an agent to increase the information over time, in which he said was, what did he call it? What did he call it? He pretty much called it annoying that this creator kept doing it, because he had to keep accounting for it. Let's see the biblical layout, which would increase entropy or information, and therefore increase the expansion of the universe, right? All right, and this is pretty much Genesis on the first day, Genesis 1:3. And God said, again, this is information creation. Let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, which is observation, and that it was good, right? And then again, we see more information creation on the third day. And this is verses 9-12. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and gathered together the waters, and called he seas. And God saw that it was good. Again, he's speaking out wave functions. Then he's observing these wave functions, causing them collapse into our reality. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, and herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw it was good. Now again, this is showing again information creation, grass and herb yielding seed. He's creating these things through wave functions, and then he's observing them. They're collapsing and being produced, and he's saying, yes, this is good. He's liking what he's created. And then 4 through 6 days the Lord saw it was good. This is clearly observation, and he is clearly adding information to the universe to increase entropy. And plus, I mean, I'm not saying this is the only times. I mean, this is a big, vast universe. Who knows what the Lord is doing out here in the universe, how many things he's creating, how much entropy he's adding to the universe at any given time. But the powerful thing is we're also able to add information to this universe. Think about it. This computer, that doesn't come naturally. We added this information to the universe. All right. And then this right here is the guy, James Randi himself. He's the professional skeptic. All right. So he's offered $1 million if you can prove local or non-local realism. He's a professional skeptic. He calls out pseudo-science. Everybody talking about people pseudo. This is a guy who put his money where his mouth is. He calls out pseudo-science. All right. So is there any atheists out there that's going to step up and take that challenge? That's all I want to know. Is there any atheists out there that's going to step up and take the challenge? All right, let me stop sharing my screen. Yeah, man. So that's the information right there, man. You really can't get away from where science is taking us right now. And I know we're going to have haters out there, man. I ran into some haters today. I guess I'm going to have to make a video about that. Man, I had people all in my inbox talking about these haters, talking about me behind my back. But when they bring up my name, like, why don't you just talk to the guy who made the video? They kick him out the group, block him, don't want to talk to him no more. Just for bringing up my name? Come on, man. You can't be that scared of somebody. This is coming from the same people who say you only block people on YouTube block people on Facebook that you're scared of. But anyway, man, it's getting late. I mean, I fumbled through this presentation a bit, man, but I'm tired, man. I kept it close to an hour. You know what I'm saying? So hey, but anyway, shalom. Y'all have a great night, and thank y'all for tuning in again. And keep tuning in, man. I love my brother videos. I mean, again, we don't endorse everything everybody say, but brother, we making some good points, man. I like it when my brother's really teaching that Torah, really getting into some deep things, man. I've learned a lot of things from the brother, and I hope he can learn some things from me. But as far as this string theory is concerned, man, this is evidence for God. Science is giving you evidence for a creator, an intelligent creator. So that's what the discussion needs to be now. Who is this intelligent creator? And from what I show in the biblical model, is showing me the best outline for the creation of the universe, which aligns with quantum mechanics. But all right, again, peace and shalom, people.
Shalom, shalom.